Yes, yes, yes! God, I've really come to love this series now. Yo, what's going on, Senpai Squad? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're talking about chapters 15, I believe, of Samurai 8. This chapter was extremely huge for the series in general, and more specifically, Hachimaru's character in general in terms of development. Prior to this chapter, Hachimaru seemed very Naruto-like. Some may even say he seemed a bit more Boruto-like. But this week, and I think the use of one word in particular did help bring upon the comparisons, and that was the word Avenger, because obviously you can't help but think of Sasuke, and now he wasn't like full-on Sasuke. Nothing like that. Not that type of Avenger. He's not going to turn evil. He's not got that incredible dark side in him. At least, not right now, he doesn't. But I can definitely see some similarities there with Sasuke in terms of how committed he is to getting his avenge goal sorted. And I don't usually like to compare two different series to each other when considering my ranking. However, I do think it's quite nice to compare the two series of Samurai and Naruto, considering they're both Kishimoto franchises, and not in terms of to say one's better than the other. It's just nice to see how some of the aspects of Kishimoto's previous work, which he enjoyed enough and thought were good enough, to then bring over into his newer work. Obviously with this Hachimaru, a clear example, we can see glimpses of Naruto in him, Boruto in him. I've seen some people say, especially after this chapter, that they see some aspects of Minato in him, and like I was saying, I can see parts of Sasuke in him as well. He's sort of like a conglomerate, a huge just compilation of all of the best characters from his previous work and their personalities, traits, goals, and everything in mind. But obviously, before we jump into all that, you guys know what we do around here. You guys know the drill. Let's have a look at what you guys, the Senpai Squad, had to say about this chapter. So 65% of you guys gave it a 5-star rating, and we've got Mad Monkey McKnight here saying, it was okay, I give it 4 out of 5. Most things they told us were already known or deduced from previous chapters. The only new thing is Carla, but it's a nice chapter overall. Aaron Gwillens here saying, great chapter, the geography and art was great. A lot of information, progress, and now things make sense. Daruma is about to show us he's powerful too. I can't wait for next week. And finally, we've got KRL Chattergoon saying, it's Kishimoto. You know his chapters are always good, and that is a fact. I give it a 5 because of the huge character development, a depth that was a huge impact on the story overall, the emotions, etc. Like with this chapter, is definitely a 4 or 5. Anything below, and you don't know what a good story is, well, whew, that saved me there. That has saved me by the skin of my teeth, because I'm going to go with the 4. I'm going to go with the 4 this chapter. It was a good start to, well, I can't quite decide whether or not this chapter marked the beginning of a new arc, or whether it marked the end of the previous one, if that kind of makes sense. I don't know if like the next chapter will be the beginning of the next arc. Personally, I can see this more of the beginning of the new arc. I feel like the groundwork that was set in this chapter is definitely going to foreshadow many future events, probably past this arc as well, in terms of Carla, or however her name is pronounced, I'm not too sure. But like I was saying, I felt like this chapter was really foreshadowing future parts of the series. Some, like I was saying, more so than others. For example, like the time skip adult versions of Hachimaru and Princess Anne that we saw in this chapter. But yeah, like I said, I think this arc, this chapter even marks the beginning of a new arc. And like I was saying, we were introduced to the big main bad guy, some may say the Madara of the series, and that was Carla, or at least it was Carla in the translations that I read. I know a couple other fan scanlations out there have got different pronunciations. Personally, what I think is going to happen is, because I'm recording this prior to the official translations coming out, yes, I know, Viz Please don't kill me. I promise, sponsor me, please. I promise I'll never read a fan scanlation in my life ever again. If you do, and hit me up with that sponsorship. But no, in all seriousness, I think the official translation will be Kala with a K. In different Asian cultures, from what I've seen, he's meant to be kind of like a god of time and death. And I think that suits in very, very fittingly with the big bad guy of a series. Also, if that skull that we saw with that like huge giant skull that we saw with Kala in this chapter, if that's actually his holder, then my god, that was raw, I think is what people would use to describe it nowadays. It looked fantastic. It was menacing. It was just, it sent shivers down my spine, if I'm honest, and it was a fantastic introduction to him. If, however, it was just an artistic choice to portray him in that way, it was still, again, a fantastic introduction, and I think that's one of the things Kishimoto does brilliantly. I think if you look back to most characters in Naruto, villains especially, bar maybe one, which we won't go into too much detail about her, I think it's safe to say Kishimoto knows how to nail down a grand entrance for an important character. On top of that, we learn a bit more about Atta and why he betrayed the Kongayasha style to go to the Uzumasa style. I need to learn on the pronunciations a bit more of that. But it was essentially to fulfill his greed and desire for more power. And like I was saying, we saw that cryptic panel of adult Hachimaru and Princess Anne. Although it was from behind and very hard to actually see what they looked like physically, but Hachimaru did look really, really cool. He was kind of like dressed in traditional knight armor, and he just stood there so proudly. And if that is some crazy foreshadowing for potentially a scene from the final fight of the series, then Kishimoto, I will have to fly over to Japan and give you a kiss, because that would be crazy. Seeing what Atta's departing gift was, which I believe you mentioned last chapter, it was interesting because it didn't cross my mind, because obviously I think I'd like to say it's about 4, maybe even 5 chapters ago when Atta actually first came down to this planet. I don't know if it's Earth that they're on, but they came down to obviously Hachimaru's home planet when he was going on that rampage through space, and he went through the moon, and I completely forgot about that until this chapter, and you see that his departing gift was actually the debris of the moon crumbling and pummeling and falling down to their planet. And I think it's safe to say that next chapter we're going to see some more flexing from Daruma, because again, in the fight versus Atta, like I said in my review, Daruma flexed so hard. One of the biggest flexes I've seen in goddamn manga. How he created this humongous star killing, destroying ability with a toothpick. Like, this cat, I want to say man, this cat is about to go ham next chapter. I can't wait. And then I think the last thing I want to comment on is Okubo's art, because it has improved massively over the course of the series, and we're only a few months into the serialization. You guys know I've had my critiques with the art a lot. I think he could use with shading a little bit more. I think sometimes a lot of the art, albeit it is good art, I just think everything sort of merges together sometimes, and I felt like lately he started to improve on that. And I think one panel in particular which I fell in love with this chapter was actually the panel of Hachimaru kneeling before the grave of his father, declaring his, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, his filial piety, I think is what it is. But essentially, after looking at what a filial piety actually is, it's basically the declaration of that you are going to bring a good name to your family. And I thought that was so good, and it's setting up a goal for Hachimaru. He's going to try and avenge his father, but, and this is what makes me thinking like he's not fully Sasuke, because Sasuke just wanted revenge no matter what. He did not care of the consequences on both himself and his family's name or anything. He just wanted revenge on the people that made his life hell. Hachimaru, he wants revenge. He wants to avenge his father's death, but he's going to go about it in a way which won't tarnish his family's name. So it's sort of like how I'd imagine Naruto would go rogue if he did what Sasuke did. I think it's going to be extremely interesting. I can't wait. Hachimaru, straight away after the death of his father, you can already sense a difference about him. Almost like a coldness. He's grown up so much. And in that conversation with Anne, I mean, I'm not much of a shipper myself, but I must admit after that conversation between them, definitely shipped them so hard. But he just seems so mature now, so much colder, so much more like an adult, and he's becoming one of my favourite main characters of New Gen Shonen. But I think that's more or less all I can say really about this chapter. As always, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're not already to become a member of the Senpai Squad. Leave all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'll be seeing you guys in another video very soon, but until then, peace.
執着の血を焦がす寡黙な炎おびき寄せられた神々の化身恐れを知らぬ剣が貫く目指す場所とはまだ見ぬ定め近づいてくる継戦の時